My name is Read with Bree, and this is part 5 of Get Low by Darren Coleman. I am reading chapters 11 through 13, so please like, comment, and subscribe. Chapter 11, Shake That Money Maker. Brandy and I sat in a booth, both in the back of Club Crystal, feeling slightly nervous. We were 10 minutes from our first time on stage. We were both using alcohol to chase away our inhibitions. Brandy had nearly freaked out when she realized that we'd have to take our bottoms off as well as our tops. For some reason, that aspect of it wasn't what bothered me. I was proud of my body. I just didn't want any of the perverts touching me. Ali had assured us that the contact was minimal, and the fact that it was only a week made it seem bearable. We worked 4 or 5 days. Frank money would slide through. We do what we had to do and never have to look back, according to Ali. It had been a week since we both got tatted up. Brandy had gotten a little crazy. I had no idea that she always wanted to turn her body into a billboard. I personally thought body art was unladylike. Not her, though. She had gotten 5 of them. Chinese letters saying forever beautiful on her neck, a serpent on a crucifix on her upper arm, Indian art on her lower back, paw prints on her thigh, and the word so juicy just below her bikini line. If I was going to get them, they had to at least have some meaning to me. I decided to get Neek's name inside an ankh, with butterfly wings attached to it, the ankh being the Egyptian symbol for life, butterflies signifying rebirth. I designed a tattoo to mean that Neek, gone in the physical, had been reborn. As long as I lived, so was she. One day I would give birth to a child bearing her name, son or daughter. Dominique would be their name. I think about her every day, and now I take her with me wherever I went in life. I also put the word "so sexy" on the small of my back in Chinese letters. For a little extra effect, I got my belly button pierced. Brandy elected to get holes in her nose and tongue. I got my first weave and had hair hanging below my shoulders now. Brandy's hair was too fine, so she cut it short. She was sexy, and I was sure she'd attract gay women by the truckload. The owner of the club was in his late 40s and went by the name of Polo. He was pretty cool and went out of his way to make us feel comfortable. He bragged to us to how he was one of the few owners in the city who hired new girls, gave them a start. Y'all heard of Buffy the Body? This is where she started, right there on that stage. He said in that thick southern accent that seemed to come and go, depending on how cool he was trying to be. Half of them ships you see in the magazines, them came right through here, he said. We had spent the first day training on the stage with Destiny, his top dancer. She was the resident trainer. When he told us to show them our moves, all we did was dance as if we were at the go-go back home, only slower. I watched as Polo seemed to become mesmerized. Although it was nothing to be proud of, I had always gotten in trouble for dancing too nasty as a kid, imitating videos on BET, even in elementary school. Brandy did the exact same thing, only she had gotten extra daring and climbed the pole, sliding down into a split. I had mouthed the words, "This is showing off," as I clapped and laughed. I looked over to see Polo had gone crazy, banging on the table so hard he knocked his beer off the table. Y'all two is naturals. Y'all going to get us paid. You just need to remember to shake that money maker as much as possible and watch these niggas spend all their money. I think his favorite part of the night was when he had us perform lap dances on him to ensure that he wouldn't get any complaints. "No, you doing too much," he corrected Brandy. "You only getting a dub for this shit. Leave them wanting more and they'll spend it." I went after her and gave a few seductive looks and grinds. "That there is perfect," he told me. "Don't look like you're too into it. They'll think you're a freak and try you, girl. Act like you're doing these niggas a favor and only charge them 20. And make sure you watch the clock. 6 or 7 minutes, that's it." I had never realized that there was so much science involved in the world of stripping. Club Crystal had a reputation throughout the city for having the livest girls. Even though Magic City, the Gold Club, and a couple of others were more renowned across the country, every hustler, ball player, and politician who liked spending dollars to view flesh made their way to Club Crystal. On the outside, it didn't look like anything special since it was a renovated pancake house. But on the inside, top-of-the-line carpet, plush booths, modern furniture, and a black granite bar made the place look rich. In fact, Polo had rented it out to several rappers who had used it to shoot videos. A couple of them I seen in the club. At 3 p.m., we were in the dressing room at our lockers getting ready to perform. Polo had told Brandy to go first. "Tori, I want you to go first." Ice ain't here today, and you and her look a little bit alike. So you should do real good. I see a bunch of her customers out there, so go get 'em." She and I hugged as she headed out the door. The DJ announced her arrival as if he was giving out the vitals for a basketball player stepping onto the court. "Brand new here at Club Crystal, all the way from Baltimore, Maryland. The sweet and sexy Miss Tori," he yelled out as he spun LL Cool J's doing it. I stood back and watched in amazement as Tori strolled out there as if she was born to do this. The place wasn't packed, but the people who were there had taken up all of the seats near the stage, so that she was on display up close and personal. She did the same routine that she'd done in practice, only she seemed to be enjoying the attention. Before she even unfastened her top, the men had begun to toss singles onto the stage. Like a veteran, she slowed down and began to play to the men who were tipping. She worked them, giving each man a few moments to stuff some cash in her garter. Then, almost as daring as she'd been that night in my backyard the previous summer, she pulled her bikini top off, exposing her breasts. The men started howling when they saw her meaty nipples jutting off her chest. Her skin was glistening from the oil I rubbed on her back, and she looked like a stick of caramel. She grinded her hips against an imaginary partner, then did her pole act. She rolled from her split into a position on the stage where she could simulate. As her song changed to "You're Making Me High" by Toni Braxton, she slipped off her bottoms. I thought to myself that either she'd done this before or she was drunk. Men walked up to her and one woman who looked like a teenage boy, one after the other sticking money in her garter. Some of them simply dropped the money onto her belly. Ones, fives, and tens, all in exchange for a brush against her skin. A minute later, and the song ended. I snapped out of my trance. It was my turn. "Can you believe this shit?" I asked. Ollie's connected the club Big Lenny had called a taxi for us, and there we were, feeling good as hell, in the back of a cab on the way home. Never mind that it was 2 a.m. We'd been at the club for nearly 12 hours, but for our trouble, Brandy had well over $400 left after paying Polo $200. We had just finished counting $700. Brandy laughed it off and said, "Shit, I knew going in that those big tags and that tax of yours was going to be worth at least an extra $300. We were working again tomorrow at 5, but we get to keep all of our money this time. Polo charged the dancers $2 a week to work there, with the cash due on Friday night before you left the club. For this, you were guaranteed at least 4 days a week. I did the math and figured that even with slow days, we were in a position to make nearly $1,500 a week. As we put our money neatly in stacks and tucked it into our bras, we both had smiles on our faces as wide as our ears. I gave the cab driver a $20 on a $14 ride. "God bless you," he said. As we walked to the door, Brandy grabbed my arm. "Are you thinking what I'm thinking? And that is, do you know how much money we can make doing this?" I smiled. "I have an idea. So, do you think we should rob that guy and ruin this?" It was a question worth considering, but not doing what we already agreed to would mean crossing Eileen. I wasn't willing to do that. I was scared to do that. After all, he was a killer. We were off on Wednesday, and I asked Ali if I could take him out to say thanks for everything he had done for me. Beyond the thank you, I had something else I wanted to discuss with him. I thought long and hard about the risk involved in robbing a big drug dealer, and neither Brandy nor myself really wanted to do it. I had a plan to use the 2 things that he loved most to get him to reconsider. At first, he didn't want to miss work to hang out with me, but I begged him and swore that I'd make it worth his while. One of the girls who worked at the club dated a promoter. He was having a show at a club downtown off of Peachtree with Montel Jordan performing and a brand new artist named Erykah Badu opening for him. Once he agreed to go, he went and got a haircut. When he came back home, I had a brand new pair of DKNY jeans and a Ralph Lauren sweatshirt and a fresh pair of Timberland boots laid out in a bed for him. On top of that, there was a brand new pair of Calvin Klein boxer briefs, an undershirt, socks, and a fresh bottle of Armani cologne. When he walked out of the bedroom, he couldn't stop smiling. "Girl, I don't believe you. You want me fresh from head to toe." While he showered, I went out into the living room to talk to Brandy. It was easy to convince her to go along with the plan. After only 5 days, she was hooked on staying a dancer, and she wanted to make sure I was able to stay right by her side. At the show, the chick Erykah Badu ripped it down and had the crowd grooving. She had an album coming out in the fall, and after hearing her belt out song after song, I felt as though she had the potential to become a big star. Montel Jordan did well also, and when we left the show, Ali was in a real chill mood. "You want to go get something to eat?" he asked. We already had a nice dinner at Ruth Chris Steakhouse, so I was good. "Nope, I want to get home. I'm hungry for something else," I said seductively. He nodded and headed towards our spot. We smoked some really strong weed as we drove home. "Can you pull over at the Quick Trip and get me some Doritos, a strawberry Fanta, and get Brandy a Slim Jim, and why don't you just come in?" "Nah, just grab it for me." While he was in the store, I called home and told Brandy we were 5 minutes from the door. It was almost 1 a.m., and I wanted to make sure she wasn't asleep. "All right, everything is good," she said. As we drove the last couple of miles, Ali turned to me and said, "Nia, I want to thank you for the night. I needed this." "Baby, you're welcome. You deserve it." He smiled before continuing. "I know you miss home, but you've been really a good sport. A real trooper. Sometimes I wish I didn't get you into all of this. Maybe I shouldn't have smashed Tony. I feel like I robbed you." "Baby, don't second guess yourself." It was strange hearing his thoughts. I knew that everything happened for a reason, even if we didn't understand them. "Tony tried to kill me. He did kill my best friend, my sister. I'm glad he's dead. I just wish you didn't have to face any trouble behind it." "One day they'll catch me," he said. "Don't say that." "It's okay. That's the way it goes. One day they will. And when that day comes, I'll go like a man. I'll face it." His voice was calm and strong. "But until then, I want to enjoy my life with you. I love you." I leaned over and kissed him on the lips as we pulled into our parking lot. When we walked into the apartment, the lights were out. The only light came from the flickering candles. There was soft music coming from the bedroom and more candles burning, giving off scents of green apples mixed with vanilla. "What you got going on in here?" he asked. Immediately, I began kissing him and undressing him as I led him by the hand to the bedroom. I pulled his shirt off and set him on the bed. I got down on my knees and loosened up the strings on his left boot. As he wriggled his foot free, Brandy appeared at the door and moved quickly to the other foot. Ali tried to focus his eyes on her as we each yanked off a sock. She was dressed in only a maroon corset and matching thong. Once his boots were off, we both attacked his belt and had his jeans sliding off in an instant. I moved back up to him and began to kiss him again as I pushed him back onto the bed. Brandy's hands were gripping the sides of his underwear as she removed them, leaving him completely naked. "What are y'all doing?" he said between my kisses. "Just relax." I kissed his neck. "We got this." I looked down at Brandy and nodded as I gripped his head. Even while he wasn't hard, several inches spilled beyond my grip. Brandy moved over, and I could tell she was shocked at the size even after I warned her. Her mouth was small, but she did her best to swallow the huge along with the few inches. "Oh, he moaned. I removed my hand and let her go to work as I stood up and undressed in front of him. My hair fell out of my bra and I caressed them, pulling on the nipples. He loved when I did that. I sat on the bed for a second and watched Brandy give my man head. Strangely, I didn't feel 1 ounce of jealousy. She was making all kinds of slurping noises as she sucked on his pole and looked up and down. She said, now holding his rock-hard eye like a gear shift. I couldn't take any more of what I was seeing. I climbed on top of his face and smashed my hook into his mouth. He responded like the eating machine he was. I gyrated harder than ever as I began to pour my wetness into his mouth. His tongue was like a weapon that should have been registered. He was playing a game of tag with my head while I was trying to keep myself from coming too quickly. Yes, eat it, baby. I was about to come when I heard Brandy scream out as if she had been stabbed. I turned around to see that she had stopped sucking Ali's dick and had impaled herself on it. Like a fool, she tried to take all 10.5 inches. Now she was bucking and shivering like a heroin addict, going through the shakes. The hit was about to short-circuit her brain. I'd been there. I continued riding his face as I leaned back enough to watch her drifting between pain and pleasure. As I saw signs in her face that the pain had begun to give way to ecstasy, I lost control and enjoyed my first sex. I climbed up off of him, and he wiped his mouth, which was coated with my juices. Immediately, Ali grabbed Brandy's hips and started to give her the type of that a John gave her. He bounced her 100-pound frame up and down on him until she screamed like a baby. "Oh, she cried out. "Oh, this is so big." She started to caress her belly and even sucked her own swollen. The sight of me touching her sent Ali over the top, and he yelled out, "Up, I'm about to end this." "Me too," Brandy moaned out as they both came at the same time, him shooting his seed deep in her wound and her spilling her juices all over his manhood. Now I was jealous. Brandy and I took turns loving him for the next hour and a half until he begged us to let him rest. He woke up at 4:30 in the morning with one of us on each of his side. "Did I die and go to heaven?" he asked as he stood up to go to sleep. When he came back to bed, I was sitting up. "Baby, I want to talk to you about something," I said. "If it's about the way I feel, then there is no way I would ever do that again without you saying, 'No, it's not that.' As a matter of fact, I hope you enjoyed that." "How could I have not?" "Well, that's good because both Brandy and I want you to be able to keep enjoying it." "Really?" He sat down on the edge of the bed and began to stroke my leg. "Yeah, but the thing is, we've been thinking about it and we don't feel good about the robbery thing. We want to be able to keep on dancing. If we keep dancing, we'll have money to chip in and then you can take your time getting back on your feet. Plus," he took a deep breath before cutting me off, "let me say this to you one time. You two are going to do this thing for me and then that's all there is to it. I owe Bucket's money. This shit is no joke. These Jacksonville boys will come up here and kill both me and you and then go to D.C. and kill your mama, your grandmama, and them cats and dogs. Plus, the time is now for me to take over. I don't have no time to start from the ground up. You want me on a corner serving the police? Is this what you want?" His voice was angry, and I knew then that I had no choice. "No, I don't." "Then don't bring shit up again. Frank should be in town within the next week or so. We're going to do this," he laughed. He stood up and headed for the bathroom. "Is that why you took me out?" "No, I wanted to show you that." "Shut the fuck up and wake Brandy's skinny ass up and tell her to go get on the couch. Y'all bitches must be crazy." He slammed the door to the bathroom and turned on the shower. Brandy looked up at me and saw the look on my face. "It's okay," she said. "It's going to be okay." Chapter 12. Cutting to the chase. 2 more weeks blew by before Frank Money finally showed up at the club. By that time, Brandy and I were becoming the talk of ATL strip club scene. The liquor licensing board had even popped through Club Crystal and checked everyone's IDs. Ours passed with flying colors and everything was good for Polo. We had people coming back to back, in and day out, and with the drink minimum, Polo was cleaning up. He kept calling us his Baltimore connection. Of course, that's where Ali had told us to tell him we were from. "My Baltimore girls are hot," he bragged to every person who came through the door. By the end of the 3rd week, we were starting to encounter a bit of jealousy from a couple of the other girls. Destiny had warned us ahead of time when Brandy got upset about a comment one of the girls had made, calling her skinny shit. "Don't worry about that shit. It'll take care of itself." Jealousy eats people up from the inside out. Most times, if you ignore jealousy, you'll hurt her twice as bad. Just don't give it any energy. Focus on making that money while you can, because next week, next month, or next year, it'll be some more new shit. Big old booties and even more pretty like your Indian pretty looking hands, she said in a playful manner. "Fuck these lazy hoes. Get that paper by any means necessary." And get paper we did. The 3rd week, I made $2,000 to Brandy $1,600. Getting the men to part ways with their hard-earned money was too easy. The first night when Frank Money came into the club, he didn't look like anything special. The pair of sweatpants and button-down collar shirt that he wore had me wondering if this was the right man. This guy was slim and small, not even 5'6". He wore a close cut with the part down the middle of it and had one gold-plated tooth that he showed when he smiled, which seemed to be every few minutes. The picture that I was seeing didn't fit with what I imagined for a big-time dealer. Big Lenny walked past me and gave me the nod to be sure that I knew for certain who he was. It was Thursday night, and if it hadn't been for Frank Money, it would have been slow. All the girls loved when he came through. He was good to toss $3,000 or $4,000 around the club without even blinking, and he done that exactly. He definitely seemed to take a liking to Brandy, asking her to have a drink with him at his table. She sat down and made small talk with him. While I was dancing, Brandy waved me over to them. I smiled, and when I finished my set, I went over and greeted them. "This is Jayla. Jayla, Frank Money." "Nice to meet you," I said as I gave him a grin and a handshake. When she stated that she was going to be riding home with her new friend, I said, "Excuse us for a moment." We walked away from the table as the plan called for, and I asked how it was going. He's a whole motherfucker, so you know how it's going, she laughed. But he's actually kind of a smooth talker. He reminds me of a pimp from one of them old movies we used to watch. Well, now you gotta break the news to him. I'll go to the bar and wait for you to come over looking for me. Brandy went over and told him that I had reminded her of our rules. One didn't leave without the other when dealing with strangers. Of course he asked that I come over, and as soon as I reached the table, he started talking about how much money he'd pay us to go back to his spot with him. Mr. Money, I said. Call me Frank or Money. Or you can call me Frank Money, but not Mr. Money. Okay, Frank, I'm sorry about this, but tonight is bad for us. We work tomorrow and we'll be better prepared for you if you're still interested. I think your offer was very generous, but Tori here seems to have forgotten a prior obligation. An obligation that can't be broken for $3,000? Sorry, but no, it can't. I looked down at the table and at his cognac and Coke. What are you drinking? Remy and Coke, sweetheart. Why, you want a drink? No, but a friend of mine works at the liquor store out in Buckhead. He gets some of the best stuff for cheap. If you want to take us up on our offer for tomorrow, I can bring you a bottle of Louis XIII. You ever had that? Baby, what you know about that? He said as he bobbed his head. That's a $1,600 bottle of liquor. Yeah, well, we can get you a bottle for about $300. Okay, well, I tell you what. Bring two and you have a deal. I pay you $500 each. Well, the one bottle is a gift, but if you like a second, I'll see what I can do. Okay, sweetheart, I'll see you ladies tomorrow. As we prepared to make our escape, Big Lenny sent another girl over to keep him occupied while we grabbed our things and headed out the door. The next night, Frank Money took us into a quiet neighborhood in an upscale single-family development out in Stone Mountain instead of a hotel as we expected. The entire time, I sat nervously in the back seat of the Mercedes he drove, all the while wanting to look back to make sure that Ali had been able to follow us. When we pulled up to the house, the garage door was lifted up and we entered. Once we piled out of the car and walked into the house, I began to wonder when Ali's plan would kick in. How long would it take before he came bursting through the door? Instead, Frank turned on some music and told us to make ourselves comfortable. I've got one piece of business to attend to, and then we can get down to business, ladies. So excuse me for a minute. Brandy shrugged her shoulders and took a seat and began shifting through the stack of CDs on the glass coffee table. We were in the basement, sitting on a thick-cushioned, S-shaped couch that stretched across 2/3 of the wall. There was a plasma TV mounted over a fireplace, a few freestanding video games, including my favorite, Miss Pac-Man, and a pinball machine. The place had a feel of a true bachelor pad. I imagined leopard print sheets and leather upstairs, but didn't really want to see any more. He don't have this shit. All this music is from the 80s. Bobby Brown, The Time, Patti LaBelle, Rick James, and who the fuck is Bobby Womack? She said. Don't ask me, I said as I pulled my phone out of my purse. I dialed Ali's number. It began to ring, but I didn't get an answer. Instead of putting it back in my bag, I stuffed it into the pocket of my jeans. I heard the doorbell ring, and instantly my heart began to beat fast. As I envisioned Ali coming through the door, guns blasting, I had a flashback of the night when I witnessed a shootout between Ali's friend, Kurt, and the police. I couldn't help but wonder if gunfire was about to break out. Instead, a few seconds later, Frank came down the steps, followed by 3 other men. Ladies, here are a couple of my partners. I told them that we're about to have a little fun and they wanted to join in, so the more the merrier, right? Brandy looked at me with a stunned look. Then she said, you said we were dancing for you. The price we gave was for you. No problem, beautiful, one of the men said as he walked up to her and gave her a forceful hug. Cleve, break him off something extra. Cleve, who looked like Mr. T, minus the mohawk cut, tossed me a wad of cash rolled up in a rubber band. Don't be cheap, Frank added. These is the finest dishes in the club. Cleve, toss him 2 more. What the fuck I care? Mike said. Cleve said, Mike, that was a G. Nigga, I said toss him 2 more. He hesitated, and the 4th man, who had been quiet, walked over to where I was seated and handed me a stack of money. How are you? My name is Jermaine. This is my home. Jermaine was tall and handsome. He didn't seem to fit in with the other 3. He offered me his hand, and I took it. Hey, I'm Jayla, and that's Tori. Y'all not from ATL, are you? No, we from up north. Okay, well, can I get you anything? Some food or drinks? No, we're okay. Actually, I brought something for Frank. It's in my bag. I poured out the liquor that Ali had given me to give them. He instructed me to make a drink for Frank, and if I got the chance to slip a couple of tabs of ecstasy into his drink, he'd be dazed and easy to control. It might keep him from having to get killed. This was before the other men showed up, and now I didn't know how this was going to unfold. A minute later, Frank had Bobby Brown blasting through the speakers. Girl, as long as I've been giving my love to you, you should be giving me your love too. Let's get this party started, Mike yelled out. Jermaine said, go ahead and put your money away. Are you going to change? Yeah, I need to use the bathroom. Follow me, your girl can start. I looked over at Brandy and saw that Cleve and Frank were passing some weed with her. Jermaine led me upstairs and pointed to a room in the back, the second door on the left. I walked into the bathroom and closed the door. The marble floors were nice and the copper-colored wallpaper gave it a rich look. I took my phone out and ran the water. I started calling Ali back to back. Still no answer. I was getting pissed and I was ready to slam the phone against the wall. I needed to get a grip before I lost it. Needed to think. Maybe they knew it was a setup and were going to kill us. Maybe Ali had gotten lost and was riding around the neighborhood. I called back, and when his machine came on, I tried to recall as much as I could. Ali, I don't remember the house number, but it's a brick house. Frank pulled his car into the garage, but some other guys pulled up. I think there was a fountain in the middle of the front yard. Hurry up, I whispered. I took my time and called back 4 more times with each detail I remembered. I recalled the fact that there was no sidewalk in the front of the house, the dark color of the garage door, and that it had small windows on it. Finally, there was a knock at the door. You all right? Jermaine asked. Here I come, I said. In a flash, I pulled my pants off and switched into a bikini. I was going to have to dance for these guys or risk them getting suspicious, angry, or both. Though I hadn't been paying full attention, I realized that at this point we collected almost $5,000 from Frank, Cleve, and Jermaine. Even still, my heart was beating so fast that I feared I might pass out. Out of desperation, I reached into my pocket and pulled out one of the pills Ali had given me for Frank. I tossed one in my mouth and washed it down with water from the sink. After packing my stuff into my bag, I opened the door. Jermaine greeted me in the hallway with, "Damn, girl, wow, I didn't know it was like that." A fake smile sprung forth. I was nervous. He went on, "Hey, listen, your girl is down there dancing, and Frank said that he really only wanted her. He has a thing for petite women. I figured that maybe you could dance for me up here." He reached into his pocket. "Here's another 500. I guess." At this point, I was so pissed at Ali that I couldn't think straight. The music downstairs was blasting so loud that the floor was vibrating. He led me into the back room. Inside of his room, there was black carpet on the floor, a circle-shaped bed, and a 150-gallon fish tank built into the wall. This man had made a small fortune selling drugs, I assumed. He sat down on the edge of the bed and hit the remote. When D'Angelo started playing, I closed my eyes. I gyrated slowly, spun around for him, and dropped to the floor. I began to lose track of time as I gave him a lap dance. The ecstasy was beginning to take over my mind. One track after the other played completely through, but it felt as if only a few seconds had passed. I didn't mind that Jermaine's hands were all over my body. In fact, they began to feel good. My skin was tingling, and every time he touched me, it sent chills through my body. Out of the blue, I pulled my top off, grabbed my pecs, and pushed them together. "I want you to lick both of my lips at the same time." "Yeah, okay," he laughed. "You kinda wild, huh?" "Do you like me?" I asked. "I like you. Do you like me?" "Yeah, I like you," he responded as he tried to concentrate on my tits. My nipples were more sensitive than ever, and I started to rub violently on my pussy. "Oh shit," I moaned, and I sucked my own tongue. I was making all types of weird noises. I didn't put up a fight or a fuss. I was now officially rolling off the E. I don't remember him pulling off my bikini, because he didn't. Instead, he merely pulled the material covering my crouch to the side. Once he slipped on the rubber, I felt him pushing his head inside of me. He was doing his best to jackhammer me, as he had me on his bed on all fours, but he wasn't packing enough to do any damage. After getting hugged by Ali for all these months, his 4-inch dick was only teasing me. Still, my body was so wound up off the drugs that any amount of dick felt good. I didn't want Jermaine to stop, but he did. He grunted and came hard. I started laughing and sat down on the bed for a second. While he panted, I stood up and headed for the door to use the bathroom. I thought about Brandy and decided to go check on her, so to dispose of bouncing, I walked down the hallway and headed for the steps. The music was still blasting. When I reached the basement, I didn't see anyone and began to worry. I walked around the corner and saw a door that I hadn't noticed earlier. I moved to it and turned the knob. When I opened it, there was Brandy being held down by Cleve and Mike while Frank Money fucked her in the ass, yelling out, "Yeah, that's it, hold the bitch still." Brandy was screaming at the top of her lungs. I panicked and ran back up the stairs into the kitchen, knocking over the microwave stand as I searched the drawers for a knife. I scrambled through the three of them before I found the butcher knife that I felt that would do the job. When I noticed a two-pronged grilling fork in the sink, I grabbed that too. I started back out of the kitchen, and Jermaine saw me moving frantically. "What's going on?" he asked while walking up the hall butt naked. "They're raping her," I yelled as I raced down the steps, a bikini-clad killing machine armed with a deadly instrument in both hands. "What?" he yelled out and raced after me. He was too slow to prevent my next move. By the time he caught up to me, I had burst into the room and plunged the fork deep in Frank's back. I yanked it out and plunged it in a second time. He howled like a werewolf as he fell to the side of the bed on the floor. Cleve and Mike both jumped back. "Bitch, what are you doing?" "Y'all up for them is going to die," I said as I charged Mike. He put his hands out in front of his face, and the knife punched through his palm as if he was made of tissue paper. "Ah!" My scream was louder than Frank's. Brandy recoiled as she saw the blood pouring out of Mike's palm as he had fallen onto the bed next to her. She jumped up, eyes wide, still in shock, as I swung the knife and fork, trying my best to take an eye out of Mike's head. Cleve was in the corner, cowering like a shit, trying to avoid the attack. All of them were naked and vulnerable. They'd gone from waiting for their turn for Brandy to hoping that they wouldn't get a turn to feel my wrath. It didn't work out well for them, as my next attempt with the fork hit Mike's shoulder so hard his bone bent the tip of the fork. He passed out when the stream of blood shot out his body like a water fountain. This time, he fell off the mattress and slid to the ground. "Grab that bitch, Jermaine. I'm going to kill her," Frank said weakly. He was losing blood and had the look of a punch-drunk fighter. Jermaine was smart enough to stay back. At the top of my lungs, I barked out, "Get your shit, girl," and then go upstairs to get my bag from out the back room. I grabbed the fork from the floor next to Mike. "Move your ass over there, Jermaine, or I cut your dick off and feed it to you." He moved over to the other side of the bed. Then Cleve said, "We got to get Frank to a hospital." He should have been worried about Mike, who seemed to be in the worst shape. "Fuck Frank," I yelled. "He reared my girl. He can die in this film." "He didn't rear her. He paid her extra for her in the ass." "Shut the fuck up, or I promise I'll cut your tongue out your ugly ass." Brandy came back and said, "Look in the pocket on the bottom of the bag. Is the money still in there?" "Yeah," she said. "Where the fuck are your keys, Jermaine?" "By the front door," he said, sounding scared. "On the steps. Tori, go grab the keys and start the car. Get in the passenger seat and hit the horn." She took off and followed the directions. 60 seconds later, I ran out into the cold night air in nothing but a bikini bottom and jumped into Jermaine's Lexus GS 300. We pulled out of the driveway and sped out of the neighborhood doing 60, it seemed. I didn't slow down to a speed limit until we reached a highway headed towards the city. Brandy cried as she confessed to me that she had only agreed to jerk Frank money off because he had offered her more money. Then out of nowhere, Cleve had smacked her, choked her, and dragged her to the room. Mike had threatened to kill us both and throw our bodies in the woods. I promised her that we were finished with the dancing. As I drove perfectly across Abernathy Freeway, I apologized over and over for getting her involved. Strange as it might have been, I felt like laughing when she described how I come in there like Norma Bates. I ain't never seen no shit like that, Nia. But still, I took a deep breath, every few seconds the entire ride home. She kept saying, "You might have killed those dudes. How the hell can you be so calm?" "I don't know. I did take one of those pills." "You're high?" "Definitely. With the ecstasy still in my system, I was higher than I'd ever been off weed. When we got back home, a little after 3 in the morning, I couldn't go to sleep. I sat watching television with Brandy huddled next to me. With each passing moment, my desire for more violence shifted closer to home. I wanted to kill Ali because he had left us to fend for ourselves. At 8 o'clock in the morning, the television was still on. Brandy had shaken me to consciousness. I looked at the screen, and there was footage on the news from the night before. A man in his 20s had been taken into custody. Officers had attempted to pull the man over for running a red light in Stone Mountain. After the man fled, a chase ensued, lasting 20 minutes and ended with the suspect crashing into a guardrail and flipping the car over. The suspect was able to climb out of the vehicle himself, but was quickly subdued. Searching the vehicle, the police found several assault weapons in the man's car and took the man into custody. The man was Ali. Chapter 13. Insecurity. I didn't know what to do once Ali was locked up. I never realized how much he had done my thinking for me until he was no longer there. After I'd gone ballistic the night of our caper, stabbing Frank and his boys, I was afraid to show up for work. The first few days I called out sick and sat in an apartment trying to come up with a plan. With no one to bounce an idea off of, I felt completely alone. I didn't blame Brandy, who was understandably off, for the lack of input or conversation. Initially, I couldn't tell if she was angry with me or if she was merely traumatized by what had happened to her. The only thing that I was able to get out of her was that she agreed we shouldn't go back to Club Crystal. In the days following, all she did was stay glued to the television. For the most part, she acted as if the rape hadn't affected her, but all of a sudden, she had an insatiable desire to stay high and drink 24/7. She never brought up what had happened that night, and I didn't want her to get tired of me asking, "You okay?" every 10 minutes. So I did what I thought was best and kept plenty of weed and liquor in the apartment to accommodate her. Ali's arrest had turned me upside down. I spent days on end thinking of my next move, wondering if my time was coming as well. I wound up buying some over-the-counter sleeping pills after Brandy had commented on how tired I looked. With my body needing rest, the unisom kicked in with the fury. The first night I took them, I was on the couch drooling after having dozed off. It was after 3 in the morning and a bang came at the door. My heart almost leapt out of my chest as I sat up. I looked around for Brandy, but she had already gotten in the bed. The knocks came again, amplified by the quiet of the night. My survival instincts kicked in, and I stood up and tiptoed past the door to the kitchen and grabbed the knife. As I approached the door, I heard a deep voice, a real Barry White-sounding nigga on the other side say, "Jayla, it's Big Lenny from the club." I thought for a moment about whether or not it was safe to open the door. If he was coming to do me harm, he would be able to crush me like a grape. My mind then went to the fact that Ali had trusted Big Lenny, and I couldn't think of any reason he wanted to hurt us. I ran and grabbed some sweats and hid the knife behind the pillow cushion just in case. "Here I come." I opened the door and flicked on the lights. As usual, Big Lenny had on the pair of black cargo pants, military-style boots, and a tight-fitting t-shirt with security across the chest. "What's up?" "I was coming to check on you two. I went to see Ali and he has some things that he wants you to do." "How did you know where we lived?" I asked suspiciously. "Ali, how else?" "Oh yeah, I offered him a seat once I'd taken the one next to my knife." According to Big Lenny, Ali had felt as though it would be a bad idea for me to come visit him. Instead, he asked me to come up with $3,500 for a retainer for a lawyer who would let him pay the balance of his fees in installments. He didn't want me facing a chance of getting locked up during a visit, even though at this point he hadn't been linked to the crime back home. Then he said, "I heard about what happened that night when you went with Frank Money." "How?" "One of my boys works for the guy Jermaine, the ones whose house he went to for that private show. Jermaine told him about what went down, and I'm hearing that he got really upset with the way Frank Money conducted himself with Tori, especially since they were in his house. What made it worse was that this wasn't the first time Frank had gotten out of line, but the word on the street is that the wish is the last straw. From what I hear, Frank is no longer with us." "What?" "Don't be surprised. The guy Jermaine, he's cousins with the Randall brothers." "The who brothers?" "The Randall brothers. Them niggas ran damn near half of the Atlanta drug scene. If Jermaine wants somebody's finish, then it's automatic." "Did you hear that he was upset with us?" "Actually, the opposite. My man said that he wants to get in touch with you, which explains why I've seen him in the club a couple times this week." "What if he's coming to take us out?" Big Lenny started laughing. "What the hell is so funny? You just said that he's prone to taking us out." "Nah, it's just that you were way off. For some reason, I get the feeling that he must be into you. If he wanted you dead, you would have been bodied the next day." "Seriously? You don't have to worry about that." Switching the subject back to Ali, I asked, "So what do I need to do about the money?" "You need to come back to work and make it unless you're sitting on something I don't know about. That is, if you want to help Ali." "Of course I want to help. Can you come and get me tomorrow? There are a few errands I need to run, and also, how do I get the money to his lawyer?" "Here you go." He placed a card on the table. "What time do you need me?" "By 12. I need to go and get a new cell phone and pick up a few things from the store. Most important though, I want you to get me in touch with the guy Jermaine. I need to know this whole thing is squashed before I go back to the club. I don't want to be no sitting duck. And Tori, probably won't be ready for a while." Tori probably won't be ready for a while. He nodded his head and smiled. "Don't trip. Ali has always called you two by your real names. And as far as Jermaine, I got your back. From what I hear, he's a good dude. I'm on it. Do you know if he ever found his car?" "Yeah, you left it outside of Neiman Marcus, double parked with the hazards on?" He asked and laughed again. "He has a personal salesperson there. Once security found the car, she wound up going to pick him up." The next day, I had lunch with Jermaine Randall at the Atlanta Grill on Peachtree Street. My mission was simple: Since he was apparently a big-time drug dealer, I wanted to know if I needed to find another town to lay my head in. We took our seats, and he kept smiling at me, nervously almost. As soon as the waiter had taken our orders, I cut to the chase. Is it true you fell out with Frank over what he did to my friend? I see people are talking. He laughed and took a sip of his water. I'll just say it was something like that. Maybe you can answer my next question a little more clearly. Is it true that I don't have to worry about him coming to the club trying to get some type of revenge for me stabbing his ass? There is no way you'll see him at your club or any club, he laughed. Frank Money had been messing up for quite some time. My cousins and myself were men of principle. We don't believe in doing no crud ball shit like that. He was finishing ATL a while ago, but he kept pushing his luck. What about the other two? Cleve and Mike? They're harmless. You saw how they acted when you went crazy on they punk asses. Plus, without Frank to look after them, they tucked their tails and they went back to Detroit. And you and I owe you and your friend an apology. I figured I'd start with this. He handed a set of keys across the table. That was nice of you to return it, but I don't keep cars too long anyways. It was the keys to his Lexus. Are you serious? On one condition. Here it was, he was about to crack for some more keys. I was shocked when he said, that condition is we simply remain friends. Friends? Yeah, I don't know what it is about you, but I want to remain your friend. Anything to do with that fat old ass? I asked with a laugh. He laughed too. Well, that's real nice, but no. Jayla, I like your spirit. I like the way you defended your homegirl even though you didn't know what was going to happen. On top of that, you face your problems head on like a soldier. You came here to meet me not knowing what was going to go down. He sipped his water, took a cube of ice in his mouth and added, you're loyal and you got heart and I always need loyal people around me. So that's it? Say you're friend for Alexis? Shorty, you just don't know about me. I could have easily just given you a bouquet of flowers. Our car don't mean much to me. I buy a new one every other month, but stick close and you'll see. The lunch had me feeling better about everything. I didn't have any real attraction to Jermaine except for the fact that he was nice and obviously paid. Beyond that, he seemed like a good person to have on your side. I left with a few more questions answered and about how I'll go on. Like Ali, Jermaine had connections at the DMV and can get the car registered. When he told me that he had people who can get the tags, I thought about my BMW and wondered if he can help me get it back on the road. That way, Brandy would have a car to drive too. I took his cell phone number and promised to call him when I picked up my new one. He dropped me off at the Lexus, which he was having detailed at the shop out in Roxwell, and I headed home. I called Big Lenny, thanked him, and let him know I'll be back at work. Although my motivation now was strictly for money, deep inside I had sort of missed being on the stage, watching men drool and toss their hard-earned money for something that they never get. It took the authorities another week and a half to discover that Ali had been using an alias, Douglas Mason, the whole time that he had been sitting in DeKalb County Jail. He might have gotten away with it if someone had noticed that the same Douglas Mason whose identity had been stolen was 67 years old and white. Things went downhill for Ali quickly after that. The lawyer ate the first piece of the retainer like a Scooby snack and did absolutely nothing to stop his extradition back to D.C. His man Kirk had recently been convicted of first-degree murder and now was agreeing to testify against Ali in exchange for leniency. I was at work when Big Lenny pulled me to the side. Ali's being shipped back tomorrow morning. I just finished my first set and the news hit me hard. I couldn't believe that his life would never be the same. With what he was about to get convicted of, there was almost no chance that he'd ever walk the streets again. I sat in the dressing room in the corner and began to cry. I had my head down as the tears poured out while I tried to have a moment of unnoticed grief. This is all my fault. I did this to Ali. Hey, girl, are you okay? I looked up to see Destiny. Seeing my tears, she sat down. What's wrong? Destiny had been as close to a mentor as I could have had since I had started at Club Crystal. I'm fine. I just have a lot going on my mind. She said the magic words. It might help if you talk about it. I'm on break. I'll clear your set and you can come with me. We'll go grab a bite and you can share whatever you're willing. I wiped my eyes. She added, baby, we all need someone to talk to. Destiny had no idea how much I needed someone. I took her up on her offer and we drove to the Waffle House at the next exit. Even though it was nearly empty, we still grabbed a seat in the far rear section. For the next 30 minutes, I shared as much as I could about my life without letting her know about my possible involvement in any crime. I didn't pass anyone turning me in for a few $1,000s, assuming there was a reward. You can't blame yourself. Men do what they do, not for you, but for themselves. Somewhere in all this, your man acted for his own gain. Pride, money, and power. Those are the only things men go to war and kill over. The fact that he brought you down here and has you stripping in a club, underage at that, should tell you something. My mouth dropped open. I'm 18, I said. Whatever, she said. Where do you think you got the fake IDs from? You? A bitch has to have a side hustle. That's why Polo and I are so tight. I help him out with things like that. But don't you trip. You ain't the first and you won't be the last 16-year-old to shake your ass in a club. Like I said, your man is going to be fine. He's damn near 30. He knew what you were doing. No, Ali was 20. She laughed in my face. Are you serious? Did you really think that? He told me. She cut me off. Let me tell you one thing that you should never forget. Believe nothing you hear and only half of what you see. I guess you didn't read the paper last week. The write-up that they had on him, your boy was 28. Lying son of a shit. I needed to see that for myself to be sure, but it made sense. Desi and I sat and talked for another hour. She made me feel better as she told me that I could really get used to the whole stripping thing as a way to get ahead. Go to school, open a business. By the time you're 25, you'll be set, she promised. Just don't get caught up in the booty shake trap. Don't get addicted to the money because fast money is just that. Fast to come and fast to go. You have to build something for yourself. I'm 26 and I'll be finished with this in about 4 years. What are you going to do when you finish? I'm going to see the world. Shop in Paris, Tokyo, and Italy. You're saving your money to travel? No, I'm going to become a flight attendant. Wow, that sounds interesting. I tried to imagine her moving up and down the aisles of a plane with her bodacious ass. Yeah, but the reason I'm saving my money is so that I can purchase a laundromat out in Sandy Springs, and with the money it brings in, I'll be able to do what I enjoy, which is traveling, and still be well off. My uncle owns the laundromat now, but he's retiring in 4 years, and we've already signed the paperwork. I'm paying him piece by piece. That's incredible. Not really. Everybody has to have a dream, and most importantly, a plan, big or small. Something to hold on to when life throws you curveballs. I nodded in agreement. We left and went back to work. The club was slow, so I prepared to take off early and headed home. When I was almost home, I clicked on V103, still feeling sad but trying to pull it together. The group Jade was singing their hit from a couple years ago. 5, 4, 3, 2, yo, time is up. I thought about Ali and thought about the words. I was 16 years old, on my own in Atlanta. I had my whole life ahead of me. His time was up. I walked up the steps to my building and turned the key. When I walked through the door of my apartment and saw him standing there at the door, I couldn't believe it. Surprise, he said. My eyes told DeMarcus that he was indeed right. This was a surprise.